McDowell 博士。今晚我哋好開心咧，有我哋嘅好朋友劉懷鏡律師喺當中咧做個傳譯嘅，我將時間交俾佢哋，有掌聲再一次啊，歡迎佢哋。
Good evening.
呢個唔使翻譯啦。
I lectured in 7 languages.
我用7個語言去同大家分享。
But never Chinese or Cantonese.
不過從來冇講過國語或者係廣東話。
And I never will.
而我從來都唔會㗎啦。
English is hard enough.
英文已經夠困難㗎啦。
But thank you for the privilege of being in your country.
不過多謝你哋邀請我嚟到你嘅國家。
It's probably my 8th time to visit here.
呢個係我第8次嚟到中國。
And I believe Hong Kong and Singapore are 2 of the most unique places on the face of the earth.
我相信香港同新加坡係全世界2個好特別嘅地方。
The difference with Singapore over Hong Kong.
新加坡同香港唔同嘅地方咧。
Singapore is just one big shopping mall.
新加坡係個好大嘅購物中心。
It is. Who buys all that stuff?
究竟邊個喺度買嘢咧
Anyway, I wish my wife were here.
我希望我太太喺度。
She's been one time to Hong Kong with me.
佢只係嚟過香港1次。
And because of the theme of our time together tonight,
因為我哋今晚一齊分享嘅主題
I want to introduce you to my family.
我要請大家睇一睇我嘅家人。
I've had the privilege of being married to Dottie for 39 years.
我同 Dottie 結婚咗39年。
It just gets better and better and better.
佢只會每一日都更加嘅甜蜜。
I never knew a woman could love me as much as my wife loves me.
我從來都唔會有一個好似我太太咁愛我嘅女人。
I never dreamed I could love someone as much as I love Dottie.
我從來都冇夢想過我可以愛一個人好似我愛 Dottie 一樣。
I stand in awe of my wife.
我對我嘅太太非常之驚訝。
You're good.
Just about managing, my friend.
I have 4 children.
我有4個小孩子。
If I were younger, I'd have 4 more.
如果我再年輕啲的話咧，我會有再多4個。
I always wanted 8 children.
我一直都希望有8個小朋友。
Dottie said no.
但係我太太話唔需
It was
要。
either say no or get another wife.
佢話一係就唔要多4個，一係你就再娶個啦。
You know the choice that I made.
所以你知道我做嘅選擇。
My oldest daughter
我最大嘅女
is a child psychiatrist.
係一個兒童嘅心理學家。
She's really believes she's called of God to work with children.
佢相信神俾佢嘅呼召係同小朋友一齊工作。
She got married this last year.
佢舊年結婚。
And then I've got a son. His name is Sean.
咁我嘅仔就叫做 Sean。
What a man.
佢係一個好好嘅男人。
You know, I never knew your children could become your heroes.
我從來都唔知道原來我嘅細佬哥都可以成為我嘅英雄。
My children have.
我嘅細佬哥就全部都係我嘅英雄。
My son has 2 masters.
我個仔有2個碩士學位。
And just started a 5-year PhD program.
佢啱啱開始一個5年嘅博士學位嘅
He's
課
written
程。
many books.
佢寫咗好多本書。
Travels all over the world speaking.
佢到全世界好多地方去演講。
And he's a teacher.
佢亦都係一個教師。
He married his 11-year sweetheart.
佢同佢11年嘅一個同年嘅女朋友結婚。
Not 11 years old.
唔係11歲。
For 11 years, they've been sweethearts.
係佢哋談咗11年嘅戀愛。
And they provided me with my first grandson.
咁佢哋咧就俾咗我第一個
And he
孫。
looks just like me.
咁佢咧同我完全一樣。
What a handsome kid, isn't he? Actually, he looks more like this. There we are.
呢個就係佢真正嘅樣貌啦。
And then you put him together with his sister.
咁咧，我哋將佢嘅妹妹都同佢擺在一齊。
She is all woman.
佢係最漂亮嘅女人，
She knows how to flirt.
佢可以表現得非常之
Yeah.
有吸引力。
Oh, I miss them.
我非常之想念佢哋。
My anniversary is Saturday.
我結婚週年紀念係星期六，
That's okay. You can send the gift in the mail.
你可以將啲禮物 send 俾我。
Then I've got a daughter.
咁我有個女，
Her name is Katie.
佢名係叫 Katie，
What a woman.
佢亦都係一個好特別嘅女
She
人。
married a fellow from Canada.
佢嫁咗俾一個加拿大人，
They're on their way to Scotland for a year and a half
佢哋而家會要去蘇格蘭有1年嘅時間，
for advanced graduate work
佢哋會做啲大學嘅工作，
in cliff climbing and backcountry guiding.
佢哋會做啲爬山同埋啲喺曠野裏邊行山嘅工作。
They want to use that to impact young people.
佢哋用呢個工作咧去影響啲年青人。
And they provided me with my third grandson.
佢就俾咗我第3個孫啦，
His name is Quinn.
佢名叫 Quinn。
However, he's just a little guy,
佢個好小嘅小朋友，
but my daughter's giving me my fourth grandson also.
咁我就快要第4個孫啦。
She will have a brand new baby
佢有個 BB，
with an 18-month-old.
同埋一個18個月嘅小孩子。
Remember those days, Lily?
Lily， 你可能記得當時嘅情況。
Then I've got a daughter.
咁我有另外一個女，
Her name is Heather.
佢名叫 Heather。
Look at that smile.
你睇佢嘅笑容，
That cost a lot of money.
呢個笑容係好貴嘅。
Called braces.
佢哋叫箍牙。
She's working on her second master's
佢而家讀緊個第2個碩士學
in
位，
education.
佢讀教育嘅。
And when she was 25 days old,
佢只係25天大嗰時，
we had the privilege of adopting her.
我就收養咗佢。
Everyone ought to be mandated, you have to adopt.
我相信每個人都應該收養一個孩
I'm
子。
a better person.
我受到
I
影
am
響，進步
truly a
咗。
more loving father.
我一個更有愛心嘅父親。
One thing about an adopted child,
一個收養嘅小孩子，
they always know they're wanted.
佢哋一直都知道你係要佢哋。
About 12 years ago,
12年之前，
she was in an argument with her two sisters and brother
佢同佢其他嘅2個姐姐同埋哥哥，佢有爭拗，
about who was dad's favorite.
究竟邊個只係爸爸最中意嘅孩子？
Finally, my Heather said,
最後 Heather 話：
I know I am dad's favorite.
我知道我係爸爸最中意嗰個孩子。
And her two sisters and brothers said, well, how can you say that?
咁佢嗰4個兄弟姊妹話：你點知？
She said, because I'm adopted.
佢話：因為我係被收養嘅。
Mom and dad chose me.
佢話：爸爸媽媽選擇咗我，
You could have been a mistake.
你可能係一個錯誤。
That's true.
呢個係真實㗎。
An adopted child always knows they're wanted.
一個被收養嘅小孩子知道佢哋係被選擇嘅。
And she is now pregnant with my 5th grandchild.
咁佢而家就有我懷緊我第5個嘅孫
She's
兒。
probably the most fun woman you could meet in the world.
佢可能係全世界最快樂嘅女人之一。
She is so wholesome.
佢係一個好特別嘅女人。
You'd think she was Chinese.
你可能以為佢都係中國人。
I mean, she is so happy.
佢係非常嘅快樂嘅一個人。
And she melts you with that smile.
而佢個笑容令到你會溶解嘅。
I think Chinese people have the most beautiful smile in the world.
我相信中國人呢個笑容係全世
I
界
do.
最靚嘅。
And
我真係相信㗎。
and I've seen a lot of smiles.
我睇過好多個笑容，所以
But
我相信
that's my family.
呢個就係我嘅家人。
It's what, yeah. That's what motivates me every day of my life.
呢個就係每一天俾我動力嘅原因。
Next to knowing Jesus Christ personally,
我除咗認識主耶穌作為我個人救主，
and then being married to Dottie,
然後咧我同 Dottie 結婚，
being a father is the 3rd greatest thing in the world.
咁作為一個父親咧，係喺呢個世界上第3樣最重要嘅嘢。
And that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
呢個就係我哋今晚喺度要探討嘅課題。
I've had the privilege of being in more than 120 countries.
我去過大約120個國家，
I've never been in a country or a culture
我從來未去過一個地方，
where children are not crying out for the love of their parents.
所有嘅小孩子都係希望佢嘅爸爸媽媽愛佢，
Especially the father.
特別是向父親嘅愛。
I've never met a young person
我從來冇見過一個年青人
that is not desirous of the love of his daddy.
係唔想要俾父親愛嘅。
The theme tonight is based upon this.
今日嘅主題呢，
It's a phrase that I'm known for all over the world.
係一個我全世界好多人都知道我成日講嘅一句話，
It's a phrase that motivates me as a father.
係一個令到我有動力，作為父親有動力嘅句
This is the
子。
phrase.
呢個就係個句子啦。
Rules without relationships leads to rebellion.
如果你有啲規條，但係你冇同個小孩子有關係呢，就會有反叛。
Kids don't respond to rules.
小孩子對於規條係冇反應嘅，
They respond to rules in a loving, intimate relationship.
佢係一個親密嘅一個成個關係當中，只會對呢啲規條有
And
反
so
應。
tonight,
所以今天晚上，
we want to look at 6 principles
我哋要睇6個唔同嘅一個模式，
in building a relationship with your child.
去建立你同你嘅小孩子之間嘅關係。
Now, these same principles are worked in many areas of life.
佢話呢啲模式其實喺所有嘅地方都可以應用得到。
A teacher with a class,
一個老師同埋你嘅學生，
a business owner with his workers,
一個商人同埋佢嘅僱員，
a pastor with a congregation.
一個牧師同埋佢嘅會眾。
I'm going to apply them to parenting.
我要將佢喺呢個父母親作為父母嘅模式上邊去應用佢。
I will state the principle.
我會將呢啲模式同大家介紹。
I will show you how it affects a child's life.
我會話俾你聽佢點影響你嘅小朋友嘅生命。
Then I'll give the biblical basis for it.
然後咧，我喺聖經嘅角度
And with
去
each
同你
one,
睇呢
I'll
啲。
give 1 or 2 illustrations or word pictures.
我同你哋一齊去睇聖經嘅模式，然後咧再會將1、2個例子同你分享。
But I want to prefix my comments with 3 things.
但係我喺講之前咧，要講3樣嘢。
Number 1,
首先，
there's no guarantee to parenting.
對於作為父母親咧，係冇嘢可以100%準確。
Don't let anyone ever tell you
唔好任何人話俾你知，
if you raise a child a certain way,
如果你用某一個方法去教育你嘅小朋友，
they'll always turn out great.
佢哋就會係好好嘅小朋友。
Usually that's someone that has only 1 child and the child turned out okay.
通常呢個只係有一個小孩子嘅家庭，而呢個家庭可能個小孩子只係麻麻地嘅啫。
And usually that child turned out okay in spite of the parents.
Of course，所以佢係因為咁嘅情況咧，就算冇人教佢，佢都會係麻麻地嘅。
You can be the greatest father in the world.
你可能係世界上最好嘅父親，
You can be the most loving mother.
你可能係最有愛心嘅母親，
If you could do everything right,
你可能做所有嘅事情你都做啱咗，
now you can't.
但係你唔可能。
But if you could,
但係如果你做得到的話，
there's no guarantee.
亦都冇個保證，
Your child won't grow up,
你嘅小孩子唔會成
say, I
長，
hate you, and walk away.
話佢憎恨你，同埋佢唔會理睬
Or
你。
becomes a drug addict
可能佢吸毒，
and gets thrown in prison.
或者佢坐監，
There's absolutely no guarantee.
冇任何嘅事情係有保證嘅。
However,
但係
if you do build a relationship with that child,
但係你同呢個小孩子建立咗個關係，
the chance of a child rebelling that way is very small.
呢個小孩子會變壞嘅機會咧就非常之少。
And if that child rebels and comes back,
如果呢個小朋友係反叛嘅，然後佢翻嚟，
what brings a child back
帶佢翻嚟嘅力量係乜嘢咧？
is not all the truth that you've taught them,
唔係你所教佢嘅真理，
but what kind of relationship have you built with them?
係你同佢之間嘅關係。
That's what brings a child back.
呢個就係你可以挽回你嘅小朋友嘅。
Second,
第二點，
it's never too late.
唔會太遲。
I don't care if your child's 30 years old,
你嘅小朋友可能係30歲，
a drug addict,
可能係吸毒嘅，
in prison,
可能係坐緊監，
and a pimp.
或者係佢做一切嘅壞事。
It's a lot easier to reach someone like that than an indifferent 16-year-old.
你可能同一個咁嘅人溝通會容易過你去同一個16歲嘅小孩子溝通，
It's never too late.
所以唔需要擔心，唔會太遲。
To start where you are
喺你現在嘅情況之下去開始，
and build that relationship.
然後去建立一個關係。
Third,
第三點，
all of you ladies know this.
所有嘅女士都知道，
Most of us men don't.
我哋啲男人就唔知啦，
We're not clued in
因為我哋完全唔明白呢件事嘅。
like a woman.
呢個只有女士至知嘅事。
There are some children
有啲小朋友
literally born hard to raise.
佢生出嚟就係好難去教養嘅。
You wonder if you ought to put them back in and cook them more.
你可能有時喺度諗，會唔會將佢擺翻去再煮一陣？
I know some kids, from the moment they were brought home from the hospital, difficult to raise.
我知道有啲小朋友，你喺醫院帶佢翻到屋企嗰一日，你就知道佢係好難教養嘅。
And it had nothing to do with the parents.
呢個唔係個父母嘅錯，
Science calls a child born that way
因為科學使到呢個小朋友出世，而
as a child with a bent twig.
呢個小朋友可能有一個攣咗嘅頭。
And even science teaches this.
科學都係咁話俾我哋
You want
聽。
to try to straighten that twig out?
你要將佢攣咗個頭去整直的話
The only
咧
way，
你唯一嘅辦法
is to continue building that relationship around that child.
係喺佢嘅周圍同佢建立一個關係。
The first principle,
所以第一個嘅原則
unconditional acceptance.
係無條件嘅接納。
When a child senses unconditional acceptance,
當你嘅小孩子知道你係無條件咁接納佢嘅時候，
it gives them a sense of security.
就令到佢有安全感。
The Apostle Paul wrote in the book of Romans,
使徒保羅喺羅馬書度咁樣寫，
said, accept one another
你們要彼此接納，
just as God accepts you through Christ.
如同基督接納你們一樣。
How did he accept us?
佢點去接納我哋呢？
Unconditionally,
完全冇條件嘅。
because of what Christ did.
呢個就係基督所做嘅，
Nothing because of what you and I did.
唔係因為你同我做咗啲乜嘢。
It says in the same way,
所以同樣嘅，
we are to accept our children unconditionally.
我哋都要同樣嘅冇條件嘅去接受我哋嘅孩子。
This is my 50th year in ministry.
我已經喺我呢個事工裏邊做咗50年，
I'm an old man.
我係個老人，
In 50 years in ministry,
我做咗50年嘅事工。
with the overwhelming majority of young people that I meet,
我見過好多年青人，
right in Christian homes,
就算喺基督徒嘅家庭，
believe that with mom and dad,
佢嘅父親同母親，
especially dad,
佢尤其是個父親，
it's based upon conditions.
通常都有條件嘅。
The better I do my chores, the more my father loves me.
我做得越好，我嘅爸爸越愛我。
The better grades I get at school, the more my mother loves me.
我喺學校嘅成績越好，我媽媽越愛我。
Any child that senses that,
任何嘅小朋友如果感覺到呢樣嘢，
that family will never experience the joy that God intended.
呢個家庭就唔會享受到神要俾佢嘅
For
喜
this
樂。
reason,
就因為呢個原因，
parents think this is crazy.
所以父母親會覺得呢樣嘢係完全
To a
係瘋嘅
kid,。it's real.
但係對個小朋友嚟講係好真實嘅。
The child feels, if I do not perform,
呢個小朋友覺得，如果我唔做到某啲程度嘅嘢，
I'll be rejected.
我嘅父母親就會拒絕我。
If I don't get certain grades, I'll be rejected.
如果我冇一個好嘅成績，我父母親會拒絕我。
And that builds a fear into that child's life.
呢個就使到個小朋友心目中有恐懼，
And in reality,
而實際上
it's a negative motivation.
呢個係一個負面嘅方法去鼓
Where
勵。
most people thinks it's positive.
我哋大家都以為呢個係正面嘅鼓勵方法
Let。me try to illustrate this.
等我俾個例子俾你。
My son Sean,
我嘅仔阿 Sean，
when he was 10 years old,
佢10歲嘅時候，
was playing baseball.
佢打緊baseball。
A few days before the game started,
佢喺開始比賽之前幾日，
I took 15 coupons for ice cream down to the coach.
我就俾咗15張食 ice cream 嘅嗰個coupon 俾個教練。
I said, Coach,
我話俾個教練聽，
these are for the kids.
我話呢啲 coupon 係俾啲小朋友嘅，
Like an average coach in almost every culture of the world.
就好似全世界所有教練一樣。
He said, Thank you.
佢話多謝你。
I'll give them to him after our first win.
佢話等我哋贏咗之後，我就會俾啲小朋友啦。
I said, No.
我話唔係嘅，
Give them to him after your first loss.
我話你要喺佢哋輸咗球之後俾佢哋。
He said, Why?
佢話點解啊？
I said, Coach,
我話教練，
I don't know about you,
我唔知你點諗。
but in raising my children,
喺我養大我呢個小朋友嘅時候，
I do not want to acknowledge their success.
我從來都唔想去肯定佢哋嘅成功，
As much as I acknowledge their effort.
但係我希望去肯定佢哋嘅努力，
But I do not want to acknowledge their effort
但係我唔想去肯定佢嘅努力，
as much as I acknowledge their being who they are.
多於佢作為一個人。
I said, Coach,
我話教練，
my son
我個仔
was created in the image of God
係照神嘅形象所造成嘅，
with infinite value, dignity, and worth.
佢有神俾佢嘅價值。
And I said, Coach, if my son never plays baseball,
如果我嘅小孩子從來都唔識打波，
if he never gets in a game,
如果佢從來都唔贏呢個比賽，
it'll have nothing to do with my love and acceptance of my child.
佢唔會影響到我愛佢同埋接納佢。
Coach looked at me.
嗰個教練睇住我，
That's weird.
話呢個好奇怪。
They lost their fourth game.
佢哋到第4場都輸，
My son came home and told me what the coach did.
咁我個仔翻嚟就話俾我知個教練做咗啲
He
乜嘢。
sat them all down on the grass on the infield.
佢將佢哋坐低，叫佢哋坐低喺個草地上，
Then he repeated my entire conversation.
將我所講嘅嘢重新講一次俾啲小朋友聽。
And he wasn't even a Christian.
佢根本唔係個基督徒，
Then he handed out the coupons for the ice cream.
然後將啲 coupon 派俾佢哋每一個。
In the next 2 weeks,
喺未來嘅2個星期，
3 of my son's teammates came up to me,
我3個我個仔嘅同學嚟到見我，
said almost the identical thing.
差唔多講一樣嘅説話。
Thanks a lot, Mr. McDowell,
佢話 Mr. McDowell 多謝你，
for the ice cream.
你俾我哋食 ice cream。
Wow.
我話
No. Wow.
幾好啊！
Okay. It doesn't matter to you
可能對你冇所謂，
if we win or lose.
唔理我哋係贏或者輸，
You love us anyway.
你始終都愛我哋嘅。
That's what I wanted to communicate to my children.
呢個就係我要話俾佢哋聽嘅信息。
Kelly,
Kelly，
I don't love you because you're such a great daughter.
我唔愛你，因為你係一個好好嘅
Honey, I
女兒，
can't believe your life.
我唔可能去信你嘅生命。
The choices you have made as a teenager.
你所做嘅選擇，
I'm so proud of you.
我對你非常之欣賞。
But honey, I want you to know something.
但係最重要，我想你知道嘅，
I don't love and accept you because you're a good daughter.
我唔愛同埋接納你，因為你係個好嘅女兒。
I love and accept you because you are my daughter.
我愛你，因為你係我嘅女兒。
Then my kids hear this over and over and over again.
而我嘅小朋友一直不停嘅聽到呢個訊息，
Honey,
親愛嘅，
don't you realize
你可能冇發覺，
you're created in the image of God
你係喺神嘅形象所創造嘅，
with infinite value, dignity, and worth.
你嘅價值係無限嘅。
And if you never made a good choice,
就算你冇做一個正確嘅選擇，
it would not affect my love and acceptance of you.
都唔會影響我對你嘅愛或者接納，
You are my daughter.
因為你係我嘅女兒。
I got to tell you, folks,
我要話俾你哋大家知，
that is one of the most powerful motivations for right behavior.
呢個就係有好嘅行為嘅最大嘅原因。
It's the opposite of what most people think.
呢個同一般人嘅睇法係完全反過嚟嘅。
Katie,
Katie，
you have worked so hard.
你而家做得好好，
She actually didn't.
佢可能未。
My first 3 children
我前面嘅3個小朋友，
were all valedictorians, #1 students in their school.
佢哋喺學校都做得非常之好，
And they never knew anything but 100s.
佢哋從來冇少過100分嘅。
All 3 of them won every science fair. They won everything at the school.
所有學校裏邊嘅獎項佢都贏得，
And so I had to put that in perspective.
所以我要將呢個解釋清楚。
Or you can have trouble with a child.
如果唔係的話，你可能唔明白。
So I said, Katie,
我話俾佢聽
I'm
，Katie，
so proud of you.
我非常欣賞你，
You got all 100s.
你所有嘅考試100分，
You did all your homework.
你做完所有嘅功課，
Your mom and I are so proud of you.
你嘅媽媽同我對你都非常之欣賞。
But Katie, I want you to understand something.
但係 Katie，我要你明白一件事，
As your father,
作為你嘅父親，
I don't love and accept you because you're a good student.
我唔愛你同埋接受你，因為你係一個好嘅學生。
I love and accept you because you're my daughter,
我愛你同埋接受你，因為你係我嘅女兒，
created in the image of God,
係喺神嘅形象中所創造，
with infinite value, dignity, and worth.
有無限嘅價值存在。
Children will usually rise to the level of your opinion of them.
所有嘅小朋友都會因為你對佢嘅睇法而變得如你所預料嘅。
You know what that does to a child?
你知道呢個會點影響一個小朋友呢？
It gives them a phenomenal security
你俾佢一個好大嘅安全感。
that my dad won't quit loving me.
我嘅爸爸從來都唔會停止去愛我，
My father won't stop accepting me.
我爸爸唔會停止去接納我，
And it gives them that security.
去俾呢個安全感俾個小朋友。
Do you know what I learned, mothers?
在座嘅媽媽，你知道我學習咗乜嘢呢？
I bet a lot of you have learned this with your kids.
可能你自己都喺你嘅孩子身上學習咗呢樣
In
嘢。
raising my 4 children,
我有4個小朋友喺帶大佢哋嘅過
the
程當
more
中，
they felt secure in their relationship with me,
佢哋越覺得喺同我嘅關係當中有安全感，
the more transparent they were.
佢哋就會更加透明。
And the more transparent they were,
佢哋同我分享，
the more vulnerable.
佢同我之間嘅關係就更緊密啦。
I said to my wife one day,
我同我太太有一日講到，
do all 16-year-old daughters tell their father all the things that Katie tells me?
係咪所有嘅16歲嘅女兒都會將佢哋心裏邊嘅事講俾佢爸爸聽？
My wife said,
我太太話唔係嘅。
I said, why do my kids tell me all these things?
我話點解我嘅小朋友會咁話俾我聽咧？
And my wife said,
我太太話，
they trust you.
因為佢哋信任你，
They know
佢
that
哋
you
知道
love them in spite of anything.
你愛佢哋，唔理乜嘢事發生，你都照樣愛佢哋。
Unconditional acceptance
呢個就係無條件嘅接納，
gives a child a sense of security.
俾佢一個安全感。
That's the beginning of family.
呢個就係一個家庭嘅開始啦。
Second,
第二，
appreciation.
一個讚賞，
This one is so important.
呢個非常之重要。
When we express appreciation to our child,
當我哋向我哋嘅小孩子表達我哋嘅讚賞，
now you have to listen to this carefully.
你要好小心聽呢句話。
It says to that child,
你話俾個小朋友知，
I am significant.
我係重要嘅。
What does significant mean?
重要嘅意思係乜嘢呢？
Think it through with me.
你同我一齊去諗諗呢個 con。
Put the definition up there. Significance is that feeling or thought
重要嘅意義就係你嘅諗法，
that you have done or said something worthwhile.
就係你做咗一啲嘢，或者係講咗啲有貢獻、有重要嘅話。
How do you express that?
你點去將呢個表達出嚟呢？
Appreciation.
就係通過讚
Whether you're a
賞。
businessman,
你就算係你
to
係
an
個商
employee,
人，話俾你嘅僱員聽；
a teacher to a student,
一個老師話俾個學生聽，
or a parent to a child,
或者一個父母話俾個小朋友聽。
says, I did something worthwhile.
我做咗啲有價值嘅事。
In the book of Matthew,
喺馬太福音裏邊，
Jesus
耶
was
穌
being
話：
baptized.
耶穌嗰陣時係受浸，
It says it came up out of the water.
佢喺水裏邊出嚟，
And the heavenly Father said,
天父咁講
in front of everyone,
喺所有嘅人面前，
This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased.
呢個就係我的愛子，我所喜悅的。
What was God the Father saying?
天父喺度講緊乜嘢呢？
Now think it through.
你要諗一諗。
He was saying, Jesus,
佢話：耶穌，
I appreciate you.
我好讚賞你。
Mark Twain said, I can live for 2 months on a compliment.
Mark Twain 話：一個讚美足夠使我存活2個月。
Xenophon once said,
Xenophon 就話：
the sweetest of all sounds is praise.
最甜蜜嘅聲音呢，係來自讚美。
Mom, Dad, please hear me.
所以我哋在座嘅爸爸媽媽，你都
That
聽
is
到呢句
so
話。
true of a child.
呢個對一個小朋友係完
It's
全真實嘅，
powerful in their
呢
lives.
個係非常之重要嘅。
I had to totally change the way I was raising my children.
我要改變我點去教養我小孩子。
I was raising my first 2 children
我喺我養大第一同埋第二個小朋友嘅時候，
the way most fathers in most cultures of the world raise their children,
就好似全世界所有文化裏邊嘅父親一樣，
by catching them doing things wrong and discipline them.
去睇到佢哋做錯事嘅時候呢，我就去懲罰佢哋。
First of all, that's really dumb.
第一，呢個好愚蠢；
Second, it doesn't work.
第二，呢個冇效果嘅；
Third,
第
it's
三，
not biblical.
呢個亦都唔符合聖經。
Because if it was biblical, it wouldn't be dumb and it'd work.
因為如果符合聖經的話，就唔會係愚蠢，而且應該會有效嘅。
So I had to totally change my approach to my children.
所以我要將我同我小朋友
To what I
嘅關係
believe
重新改變，
was really a biblical model or paradigm.
去到一個同聖經係完全符合嘅做法。
I had to first.
我有第一樣
They're short.
，short, very short。
I didn't see. You taught me well. I first had to catch my children doing things right
我首先呢，要睇到佢哋做啱嘅事，
and express appreciation.
佢哋做正確嘅事嗰時呢，我要表達我嘅欣
Now,
賞。
don't get me wrong.
你唔好誤會咗我，
That doesn't mean
呢個唔代表
that I didn't catch my children doing things wrong and discipline them.
佢哋做錯事嗰時，我唔會懲罰佢哋。
But I can tell you this,
但我可以話俾你聽，
that discipline better be underneath the overall umbrella
而呢個懲罰呢，係喺一個大嘅氛圍當中，
of catching them doing things right and express appreciation.
去睇到佢哋做正確嘅事，而去讚賞佢哋。
In raising my 4 children,
喺我湊大我4個小朋友嘅時候，
I am convinced,
我好了解呢件事。
and I thought through this a lot when I wrote the 6A's book.
我喺寫呢本6A 嘅書嗰時，亦都考慮過呢件事。
With my 4 children,
我有4個小朋友，
the more I caught them doing things right and express appreciation,
我每次睇到佢哋做正確嘅事而讚賞佢哋。
the less there was to catch them doing things wrong and discipline them.
咁咧，佢哋做錯事，我需要懲罰佢哋嘅機會就越嚟越細。
And it's a lot more fun
咁呢個會更加快樂，
and a lot easier on their mother.
而且對佢嘅媽媽亦都更加容易。
For my 4 children,
喺我嘅4個小朋友裏邊，
I believe that every time I caught them doing something wrong and disciplined them,
每次我睇到佢哋犯錯而去懲罰佢哋，
there were probably 50 things they had done right.
佢哋可能做咗50件啱嘅事。
And as their father,
作為佢嘅父親，
if I don't put forth the effort
如果我唔努力嘅
to catch him doing things right,
去睇到佢做正確嘅事，
I've lost the right to discipline him.
我就冇權力去懲罰佢哋，
It'll backfire.
佢會令到我好難受。
Thank you, Kelly, for putting your clothes in the hamper.
我話多謝 Kelly， 你將你嘅衫擺喺個籃裏邊，
Your mom will appreciate that.
你媽媽會好欣賞你。
Thank you, Sean, for sweeping off the porch.
所以我哋多謝你將前院打掃好，
I appreciate that.
我好欣賞。
Now, would you do the other half?
你會唔會做埋其他嘅呢？
My son was halfway of everything.
我呢個細佬，我呢個仔呢，即係每件事都做一半嘅。
But the best way to get him to do the second half
但係你要使到佢做完另一半呢，
was to express appreciation for doing the first half.
就要讚賞佢做完個第一半。
Catch him